And so many people are scared by spiders or snakes or horror movies, such as Paul Blart Mall Cop Part 2. For me, this is the stuff that scares me. This stuff right here. This is why I'm making this video, because the problem with the bastardization, I think that's a word, of functional fitness is it leads to people doing stuff like this.
David Brent is refreshingly laid back for a man with such responsibility.
What is functional fitness? What does that concept mean to you? Through this video, I'm going to project the idea that we need to stop being so binary and closed-minded when we approach this idea of functional fitness. And indeed, I'm going to explain how it's actually very difficult to not class something as functional, as long as there is specificity and overload attached to that exercise, as essentially everything that we do in the gym can increase functional capacity, again with a few caveats. And functional training as a concept is an umbrella term. It encompasses so much. It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of exercises which meet specific goals, which increase functional capacity, again depending on you and your characteristics. We cannot just so generically brush functional fitness into a small box with a closed mind and then say this is functional and this is not. And I'm going to approach this from both sides because this tribalism comes from both sides. I got a bit overexcited then. The vein on my head stood to attention. And so I've got to thank Omar Issa for his very kind words about my channel.
I found out another channel, I think it's called Shredded Sports Science, where honestly I haven't been spending as much time on YouTube Fitness. Thanks to this, I saw his response video, and I think this guy, I've watched now 4 or 5 of his channels, videos. I'm going to link it in the description. I think he puts out great content. I think there's still people trying to give good information.
For those new subscribers here, perhaps from Omar Isuf, don't worry, you are in the right place. I understand why you're a bit confused what's going on here. I am a qualified sports scientist, but most importantly, I come with just terrible jokes, just the lowest, most cringeworthy type of joke you can simply endure. Am I anabolic yet? And the major problem I see is that movement training or exercises which envelop multiple planes of motion, multiple movements within that exercise are classed as functional, and then everything else which isn't that, which doesn't fit into that mold, is classed as non-functional. And the only people this benefits are those that are profiting from this. These people that can classify their form of training as functional, they can nicely package it and sell it to people as unique, sell their training courses and their programs because this is functional training, moving in multiple planes of motion simultaneously. Yes, that is functional, but other exercises are too. And one of the major philosophies of my channel is risk, reward, and safety. When it comes to exercise selection, as long as you have specificity and overload, you're going to be okay. However, when I see stuff like this projected to large audiences, that's when this old noggin has to intervene. The term functional fitness is one of the most misapplied concepts in exercise science. Fact is, virtually all exercises can be functional, depending on the context. Why are people doing what they're doing in the gym? We cannot know if we just look at someone across the gym floor why they're training that way, unless we know their specificity, their program design, their unique goals, their unique characteristics, their history of injury. Why are they doing this specific exercise? And so here is the important point. Essentially, all exercises can be classed as functional because they increase functional capacity. Functional capacity being your ability to perform physical activities, challenges, tasks, or exercises. For example, a barbell back squat can increase strength in the lower body. That can improve functional capacity for you to perform so many physical tasks. And therefore, to label a barbell back squat as non-functional is simply incorrect. It has function for a specific purpose for the specific person training it. For the majority of the population, simply getting stronger, regardless of the exercise employed, will enhance functional capacity. Ultimately, the functional transfer of an exercise exists on a continuum, with certain exercises having greater applicability than others based on individual goals and abilities. And just because a given exercise may provide greater functional transfer for a given person doesn't necessarily mean that the exercise is non-functional. However, the caveat to that, and the exercises which are certainly non-functional but circus tricks, are stuff like this which have a high risk, low reward. And you may say, well, that's hypocritical, James, because maybe he's training towards a specific function. And the reason I've chosen this person is not to make fun of him. It's because he's chosen this exercise with specific goals in mind. And this exercise does not relate to these goals. And in addition, it has a high risk to it. This person says, essentially this person is saying, when do you see people in relation to football with 2 feet planted to the floor? And that's why he's doing this. This is the problematic thinking that this bastardization, again, is causing in YouTube fitness or in general social online fitness. He has 150,000 people on Instagram. And a question to this man, is throwing the barbell to the floor part of this functional fitness? I could not just look at this exercise and say this is not functional. I can say this is dangerous. That's valid. But I'd be hypocritical to look at any exercise and just generically say, this is not functional. The reason I can classify this is because his goals are to be faster, jump higher, more agile, more explosive. This exercise does not achieve any of them. He also talks about this in relation to football, American football. Football in my country is football, not soccer. I confused even myself then. If you want to improve agility drills, changing direction quickly, power, you have plyometrics, working on the stretch shortening cycle where you harness this elastic energy with ballistic or plyometric movements. Those would be exercises I would choose for his goals. A barbell back squat on a Bosu ball just is in no way a decent exercise selection for his goals, and it's high risk in terms of him injuring himself. The term functional is specific to the ability to perform physical tasks that spans a wide range of activities, far beyond athletics. Again, this is the perfect way to sum up these variable questions. Not the one-size-fits-all answer. This is functional training, this is not, which is highly divisive in the fitness industry. And it's unnecessary and unneeded. And it's an unnecessary distraction, and it works both ways, because not only does it cause negativity towards the major compounds, but it also causes negativity towards people who are using multiple movement training. And those people are kind of labeled as wacky or quirky, when in actual fact, what they're doing is very good also. And it lies on a continuum, and we cannot come in so black and white saying this is functional and this is non-functional. That is simply incorrect. And the reason I really hesitate to make videos about functional fitness is because there's such emotion attached to it. And I understand where people are coming from. For many people, a certain form of training may have changed their lives. They may have been hugely successful, built a community around it, and they may be made fun of. And so I understand that. For example, people may use simultaneous multiple plane of motion movement training on a cable machine in the gym, which can be absolutely excellent as long as they have specificity, they're using the applicable overload, their biomechanical execution of the exercise is going to decrease the risk of injury. That can be great. And so these people are made fun of, and that is simply wrong. Now, it is fair to say there are people that do stuff on the cable machine which doesn't envelop those sensible factors. It's high risk, it doesn't have specificity, it's just off the walls. However, again, we should not make fun of those people who are trying to work different movements in the gym just because they're not traditional compound movements. And then vice versa. This idea that people who are performing the traditional compounds, the bench, squat, deadlift, military press, etc., or just using barbells in general, are somehow using an inferior form of training because it's non-functional to their daily movement and activities. For example, a bench press, absolutely. It does not encompass all multiple movements, multiple daily activity movements. That's valid. Also, a barbell bench press will not transfer specifically to athletic performance in some cases, in many contexts. Again, valid, but it doesn't have to, because for that person training the barbell bench press, that movement, developing the upper body strength, the horizontal pushing absolutely has transfer to functional capacity in certain ways. And that's most likely, and I hope that's what that person is training it for. In addition, the barbell back squat, which involves an axial load, which involves the maintenance of a strong core while moving with an axial load, which involves mobility of the hips and the ankles, lower body strength to drive out of the hole with good biomechanical execution. All the synchronization of movement and mobility within your body in a barbell back squat, whilst with a load, Of course, that increases functional capacity in so many ways. Now, I could give you many examples of what it can transfer to, but again, it's highly dependent on the person, so I don't really want to go into that. I may do that with a specific person or trainee or athlete in another video. And so to be very clear, for some people who will react emotionally, because in most cases all you've heard is this divisive functional versus non-functional, in many cases it's not your fault, it's the fault of the people giving you misleading information. Just because an exercise is not optimal for a specific person at a specific time for their specific goal does not mean it's non-functional. And I did just use the word optimal, and I am wary of the word optimal because as much as we want to choose optimal exercises for our goals, there is actually a deeper argument. If you're optimizing in one sense, you're not adapting in the other. And I do have videos on that. And I actually see in gyms, they have functional fitness areas, and that's wrongly classified. Actually, what they have is areas where you can train multiple movement patterns simultaneously because of the equipment they put out there. For example, the TRX, the kettlebell, medicine balls, Swiss balls, where you can train ballistic exercises and plyometric exercises. Everything you're going to see in a gym has the potential for functional transfer of some kind, depending on the person. And so I'm James Linker. This is the Shredded Sports Science. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.